Hello everyone, Gilbert here. Welcome to Reddragon Model Works. Before I start, I'd like to wish a belated Mother's Day to all you superheroes out there, all you women out there that endure whatever we sons and daughters you bring into the world that we dish out. You don't get enough credit for that, so I wanted to wish you all a happy Mother's Day. So, it's been cold and wet here in Illinois. People up in Oklahoma, I know Freddie Duarte up in Oklahoma. They had some real nasty flooding in Lawton, and they got some pretty severe weather coming through here. There's a tornado warnings all up and down the Midwest, so I wish you all safety out there. So be careful. Listen to those sirens, guys. Stay safe. Now, this video here is it's something that I had been contemplating for I don't know 2 years. About a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, I made a series of videos on airbrushing, and I never uploaded them. I just didn't do it because I thought about I didn't see the need for it. There's got to be 100, 200 people out there on YouTube land right now that are far superior than what I am, that can talk about airbrushes, the applications for them, etc., etc. I mean, if you search YouTube, you search airbrush, you find them everywhere. You have anywhere from Coast Airbrush to Airbrush Tutor, you got them all over the place. But, I'm continually asked, if I have anything like that, and if I do, people would like to see them. Now, there's over here, you'll see a little tab come up right about here. And that's a video where I explained a little bit of my journey in airbrushing, and I showed you some of the airbrushes that I had. And you can click on that link right up there, and it'll take you right to the video. But that's not what this is about. The series of airbrush videos that I had, well, there was a series of videos I had talking about airbrushes, how to maintain them, which one would be good for you, how to maintain them, how to clean them, what to check, how to troubleshoot them, what paints to use, what paints to try not to use, and so on and so forth. So I was asked a question the other day on Facebook in another community by a brother by the name of Adam. He asked me, he says, if I had anything like that. And I said, yeah, sure I do. I just never uploaded them. So my intention was to upload them today. But last night I went over and I started watching them, and I thought, there's some things that I glossed over. I didn't explain, and the reason I didn't explain it was because it was my own arrogance, and I mean that not in a derogatory way. What I mean that is this here: those of us that have used airbrushes for a considerable amount of time, we assume sometimes that others know what we know, and by that I mean that just the simplest things as even cleaning an airbrush the right way, without damaging the internals, we take for granted. We've learned these lessons the hard way, through time, and we sometimes, in our and the only way I can explain it is it's not arrogance. It would be more of the only way we can. Sometimes we forget that other people are starting out where we were at one time. Now, when I started out, it was well over 30 years ago, airbrushing was not really big. You had a niche market in it. Excuse me. And man, you could make some money making t-shirts back then. Paintings on the walls, canvas painting, cars. You could still make good money on it, but it's now everybody and their mother wants an airbrush. At least every artist I know is trying to get into an airbrush at one point or another. So there's plenty of airbrush manufacturers out there that'll sell you just about any kind of airbrush you're looking for. So here in the hobby, a good portion of us, I would say, and I might be wrong, I don't know any scientific numbers on this, but about 96% of the people that are building models airbrush. You still have the traditional people that use a lash brush, but those are far and few in between. Not that there's anything wrong with doing a lash brush. I mean, I've seen some work done with a lash brush. It's just gorgeous. It looks like it's been airbrushed. But the vast majority of us use an airbrush. So I was asked if I had any videos on it. And after giving it some thought, this is what I come up with. Now, I'm going to try to keep these videos at 10 to 15 minutes, no more than that. So the first one I'm going to show you right here is how to maintain an airbrush, how to take it apart, and how to clean it, how to put it back together. And then, you know, certain other little things, what to look for, you know, if you got bubbling through the cup, etc., etc. So if you bear with me, guys, I'll aim this camera down here and I'll show you two airbrushes that I got on my desk here, and we'll go from there. We'll be back in a second. Okay, before I start getting into the airbrushes themselves, I want to explain a little bit about an airbrush. For the most part, the internals on all your airbrushes are the same. There's a few differences here and there on the tolerances and how they mill a few things. But for the most part, if you take apart one airbrush, you've taken apart them all. Other than, say, I don't know, like a trigger airbrush, and I'll get into those later in another video. But for the most part, most of us here, this is what you're going to see on the inside of an airbrush. This is an Iwata. And basically, they're all the same. You have your two needle caps. Inside, you have a fluid nozzle. That'll change, you know, depending on the airbrush manufacturer. Iwatas are really tiny. We all know that. Then you have the Badgers, and I'll show you one of those. The Posh, you know, the Grex, and then you have the Harder and Steenbeck. This is your needle, of course. And then right here, this piece right here is your packing needle. That keeps the fluid, you know, whatever you put in here, whatever paint or ink or whatever that comes in here, it keeps it from backing up into here, that needle right there. It also sturdies your needle here. If that needle's if that packing set right there, that seal is bad, what happens is that'll leak into here, and your airbrush really doesn't work very well. Then you have your trigger. You have your air valve, which is here. You get your little piston, which is right here. You have the spring guide, and I'll get into that right here. You have your needle spring, which is, some of them are inside the spring guide, some of them are outside. You have your needle chuck right here. Right in here you have a needle chucking guide, and on some of them you have a preset handle on the end here. Again, for the most part, that's what you're going to see inside of an airbrush. Doesn't matter what it is. The only difference is maybe right up in here in the front, the needle, the nozzles, and the actual needle cap on the inside, the fluid nozzle. These also sometimes can change. They're basically the same, but configured a little differently. You have two types of airbrushes. You have what's called a single action, which is this. This is a Badger 200. It's pretty old, but this is a siphon fed, which means that the fluid comes up through the bottom through siphon. It's an internal mix, so it comes up through here, mixes right in here with the paint, and as you press down, it shoots out. That's how you adjust, you know, the spray pattern is through this little nozzle in the back. So it's just a single action. You hook up a little cup or a bottle to this, you press and go. Simple as that. Then you have, this is a Badger Chrome. Then you have the double action. Now here you notice that trigger's big. This is one of their new high roller triggers. Everyone knows that watches my videos, they know I like a taller trigger. So I put a high roller trigger on this. But basically, what you see in here is the same here with the exception of that nozzle. So this is a double action. With a double action, internal fed, gravity feed, internal fed, double action. What happens is you press down on the trigger, you activate air. And as you pull back, you pull the needle back and paint comes out. These are preferred for detail work. You get a finer, get better control. You get a finer atomization with a gravity feed than you would with a siphon fed, because you don't have to bump up the pressure pretty high. A gravity feed, you'll probably have to go up to about 30, 35, sometimes 40 to get a good stream of air coming through there. Whereas, a siphon feed. Whereas a gravity fed, You can, I mean, I've gone all the way down to 5 psi. It's just gravity fed coming right out the front there. Now, they come with a protective cap. We'll take all this off. Now we're going to get into cleaning it, taking it apart and cleaning it. Now to take apart an airbrush, it's fairly simple. You remove the back piece of it, the protective piece here. You remove that. Right here on your needle chuck guide, you loosen your needle chuck guide and you pull your needle. Lay it there. Oh, by the way, this is an Iwata mat. So when you work on your parts, it's non-skid. It's got a nice little lip on it. You can put your parts on here. They won't roll around. You won't lose anything, especially if you're working on an Iwata with that little bitty needle there or that nozzle, that fluid nozzle. You lose that thing, forget it, man. So I never take this piece here apart. I never take this off. Here, you can already pull the needle out, or the trigger out, because the needle's out of there. The needle's not in there. You don't have to worry about that. So then you loosen, I got that a little tight. You loosen this piece here, the needle chucking guide. You pull this whole piece out with the piston. You take this out, unscrew it all the way out. That came off anyway. And there it is. For the needle, the part here, you unscrew this. This is the little needle guard. You take that off. I'm going to need a tool there because I got that tightened up. I have a little wrench here, and I'll show you guys. This is for, from the Iwata tool set. You have these that got a little plastic rubber on there so you don't ruin the finish. You just put this on here, just like this here. Crack that seal, turn it right off, and there it comes. Comes right off. There's that. Needle just came right out. And there it is. That's how you take apart a needle or an airbrush. Now you'll notice on the Badger Chrome, see that needle? That needle is about the, or that nozzle is about the same. Let me see, as this is the one inside the Iwata. The only difference with this is it press fits in there. You don't have to screw it. You just put it in there, tighten your needle cap back over it, and it'll seat right inside there. So you don't have to worry about turning it. It's the only difference. Now, when you get these open, the way you clean it is, you know, you want to run some cleaner through them, whatever. I don't. Some people, they use a sonic cleaner. Now, I don't recommend that unless this thing is very gumped up. And the problem with that is if you do not remove that air valve out of here, it's going to rattle around in there, in your sonic cleaner. And by rattling it around, you end up damaging this piece right in here. And over time, you're not going to get a good seal when you tighten that up. So I wouldn't do that if I were you guys. I would just take it out, run a pipe cleaner through it, put it back in. If you have to stick one of these in a sonic cleaner, then you haven't kept your airbrush pretty clean. You'll look down the barrel of it. You want to make sure that there's nothing in there. So what I do is I'll take a pipe cleaner, simple pipe cleaner, and then I take a little bit of airbrush cleaner. I add some right to the pipe cleaner, like so, and then I'll run the pipe cleaner through it, right inside there. I'll come over here to this end, and I'll do the same, right through there, just like that. Reason I say a pipe cleaner, you can also use one of these little dental picks. You get it right inside there, and you can clean that out. I would avoid against using these. Now this is good to get back here to clean, but I'm not going to go all the way through. I'm not going to come where that seal is. I'm going to stop right about where that seal is, and I'll use this to clean out inside here. But if you ram one of these with these hard bristles through here and you start, moving that back and forth, you can damage that seal that's in there. So I would avoid these guys at all costs. Use something like this, or dental picks, or what do you call those? Those the little pieces. Will uses those. I have some around here somewhere. Those interdental picks, they're made out of paper. You can run them right in there. You can run them inside your needle. But I would use something like this, and if that doesn't go all the way through, you get a pipe cleaner, wet it, and you stick that right through there, just like that, and clean it out. This should suffice. Same thing with through this end here. That's all it takes to clean an airbrush. Now you might have to soak some of this, and if it's you got some stuff that's really gunked up in there, you can use a couple of things. You can use some water with a little bit of ammonia in it. It's not going to hurt the seals. Maybe it did at one time, but it won't do it anymore. You just don't, I don't use it to breathe it in. But you can put a little water with ammonia in it, clean it out, rinse it out real good with some distilled water. I don't use tap water because tap water has impurities in there, and those impurities can build up over time in here. Doesn't matter how good you dry it, you still get some water in there. And if you got impurities, you'll end up with lime and all kinds of nastiness in there. Or you can use some lacquer thinner, some mineral spirit. I would use lacquer thinner and run it through there, clean it out real good. It'll clean it up. But if you make a good airbrush cleaner, and if you look right up there in that corner, there's a video on how to make this. It's cheap, easy, bada bing, bada boom. Now to put this back together, we'll get into that in a second. Now that you had it all, you've taken it apart, check all your pieces, run your interdental picks through there, make sure everything's clean, make sure you wet that with some cleaner or some solvent, whatever solvent you guys use. Your needle, your needle right here, your nozzle, if you have an old needle that's bent, don't throw these away, because you can always use these to clean them out. So now that you've got all this done, this is how you put this back. Like with an Iwata, you're going to need a tool, or the little spanner that comes with it, to tighten. Let me move in a little bit. Sorry about that. Let me zoom in a little bit more. To tighten that nozzle back on. With the Badger, you don't need it. You just drop it in there. It'll sit right there. And you take your cap, sit it right on there, and just tighten it. Now, doesn't have to be torqued down. You should be able just to hand tighten it. I use this little tool just to be on the safe side. I give it a little oomph, and there it is. Take this piece here that covers your needle. If you have one, put it back on. So now that's all put together there. Before you start adding, say, the needle and anything else, like this piece right here, I'd lube this up right here. Let me back up a second here. I would put a little lube, put a little lube on this right here. Now you can use a variety of things. You can use either Iwata Super Lube, or you can use Badger's Red Gap. So you take a little bit of this. See that in there? That's where your spring is. Every now and then it'd be good to take your pipe cleaner and just run it through there to make sure that's all cleared out. Because you never know. Sometimes paint gets back inside there. So you take this, add a little lube there, just a very little bit. You don't need a lot. Just a little bit, just like that. Run around with your finger. Take that. Now here, as you can see, there's a little notch there around on this side right here. See it? So when you stick this piece back in there, you got to make sure that that piece lines up. Let's see if I can get this to focus. You want this piece right here with that groove to line up with that groove in there. So you just make sure you turn it until it does this. See? Now what I do is I hold this down. I take the needle chuck, put that on. There it is. I also add a little oil to the threads right here. Just a little bit all the way around. and then screw that in. This piece came loose. Right there. Now, you can tighten this all the way down, but on a Badger, you have a second screw, or right here. That is for the tension. That'll give you the tension for this to move back and forth, for the needle to go back and forth. So once you got this all buttoned up, let's see, like so, what I do is I'll take, and this is usually the part that I hate with some of these airbrushes. The 105 has a little groove in here. Let's see, sorry about that. Let me get this light right there. The 105 has a groove right here. So when you take this piece here and you go to put it in, you could slide it off to the side. Best way to do this is to drop it in sideways, and then once you get it in there, you turn it. There it goes, right like that. You want this end here that's bowed, you want it facing the cup. Make sure it's sitting in there right. It's going to try to sail on you and move around. So what I do is I make sure it's, let's see, right about, yeah, see it's stuck in there. Right there. There we go. There we go, right there. Where's the, then I take this, which is the trigger. I'll lay that trigger in there and make sure that it's moving up and down in the morning. All right, let's slide that in all the way through. Make sure it seats. Tighten that down. Make sure this is all the way tightened down. Like so. And there you go. Okay, press down. Press down. You'll see the needle moving. Then you put it all together. Now let's check it. Now we'll make sure everything's running right. I'll turn the air on. Add a little bit of cleaner. Up a little bit so you guys can see. You see there's a little cleaner in there. Nothing. As I pull back, there comes the cleaner. See? So you just want to make sure everything's running right. I'll run that all out. Drop a little Stino resin there, just to make sure. A couple little drops. And there it is. Yep. Works perfectly. Look at that. This is the, again, it's the Badger Renegade, the chrome with a high roller trigger on it. I can't see what I'm doing there. Oops, sorry about that. And there's a line you can get with that. So, I just want to make sure it's clean and it's flowing right. Make sure all of it's out. You see there's still some coming through there. a little bit of my juice in there. Yep. Move it around a little bit. Let me move this off to the side here. I don't want to spill it on anything. Drop that out. A little bit more, just right there. A little squirt, not a lot. Just a little bit. Take a soft brush. I don't stick Q-tips through there. I'll just take a soft brush, roll it around the sides there. Make sure it's all cleaned out. There you have it. Clean airbrush. I'll just take a little bit of this. I always pull that needle. I'm going to put it away. So what I do is this, because I'm going to put it away. I'm not going to use it for a while. Out comes the needle. I wipe it down. Hold the trigger down. Stick the needle back in until it stops. Bit. Tighten that piece up. There it is. So there you have it, guys. That's how you clean an airbrush. Put this piece back on. It's fairly simple. There's no, not a lot to it. Put your protective cover on. Little cap that goes with it. There it goes. So that's it. That's how you clean an airbrush. I'll be back in a second. So that's it. That's the basics on how you clean an airbrush. It's as simple as that. There's another thing that I neglected, but I didn't do it on this, is you get yourself a little bit of beeswax. You put it around the threads around your nozzle. Tighten your nozzle down. It's all done. I'll show you that in another video. I hope that helped. Next week I'll put up another video on, you know, how to shoot it, how to troubleshoot your airbrush if there's something wrong with it. So if this is of any help, please leave a comment down below. And remember, brothers and sisters, it's a hobby, and, you know, have fun, enjoy it, because, you know, it's not a hobby if it isn't fun. Leave the drama to the queens. Love your families, love your children. Build a damn model, brothers. Peace.